Hey, Who fans, and welcome to the Big Blue Box podcast. My name's Gary.
My name's Adam.
And welcome to episode 345. Welcome back to another episode. I hope you're keeping well and safe. I hope you've had a cracking couple of weeks and that you've managed to do something Doctor Who related. Hope you've read a book or grabbed one of the Blu-rays or even one of the VHS tapes, depending on your AV setup at home. The old Doctor Who movie on VHS, eh?
Amazing
times.
They're being reissued, apparently, the Cushing movies, I've heard, on 4K. Imagine that.
Bit of a remaster. What were they filmed on, those Cushing movies? Are they on proper film stock, 16mm jobbies?
I'm not sure, but I reckon they look really good, don't they? I was going to say, I can imagine they would look amazing on 4K, but I have no idea what they were filmed on originally. I
think they might have been. But yeah, because like, you know, when you watch something that's fairly old school, like an old film, an old TV, but it still holds up really well today, and you think, actually, that's probably filmed on film rather than TV tape. Yeah.
I'm just thinking the colours in those films are so rich. If I think of the Cushing films, they're just so vibrant, and they got that lovely 60s brightness to them. I really like the Cushing films, and apparently they're going to be reissued in the cinemas as well. They're going to have a cinema showing for them, which if it's near me, I'll definitely be going to those. They're great.
Nice. Very nice. Yeah, so...
I haven't got a 4K player. Have you?
Yeah. What do you mean you haven't got a 4K player?
No, I haven't got
Where
4K.
Have you been? Where have you been?
I'm still on the Betamax. No, we kept saying we were going to get a PS5. We were like, no, we don't need to buy a 4K player because we'll get a PS5 and that plays them. And... there's still no stock of PS5s anywhere, apart from eBay for like 4 times the price. So yeah, we're just waiting for Argos to get some PS5s and then we'll have them.
And then you'll bag one, mate.
And then we'll be in the 21st century.
Indeedy, yeah. I wonder if Doctor Who will have a 4K remaster at any point. I wonder if they can actually
upscale. What was that random episode they upscale? Was it Twice Upon a Time? They released as a really random one-off. Yeah, and it was like ages after so it got released on like DVD and Blu-ray, just standard, which is, what you'd expect. And then just randomly it came out on 4K about 6 months or a year later, and it's like, but it wasn't filmed. I don't know, it's a bit random. Anyway.
I'm referring to sort of modern, very modern Who, like Jodie's era, because I think that was filmed in... Because remember before Chibbers and Jodie took over, in that sort of run-up, that interim period, where we were speaking about various bits of new snippets that landed before it all kicked off. And I remember one episode we spoke about they had switched over all of their lenses and cameras and all the equipment that they were using. And I think they used some of the red cameras and whatnot that they used to film some of the Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit bits and pieces and whatnot. So I believe that was all shot in a fairly decent res. It could be 4K, I think, but the most that we've got is the HD Blu-rays, obviously. So I'm wondering if they'll do a 4K release for them at some point. I think it would be a bit of a stretch to go back to the other Doctor's eras from Eccleston and up to Capaldi, because I think, I could be wrong, I'm no expert on this stuff, but I don't think that was filmed anywhere near 4K. That was just filmed in HD at the time. But yeah, I think Jodie's stuff might be eligible.
Yeah, it might be, yeah.
Yeah. Did they put any stuff out on 4K on iPlayer? I seem to remember there was one or two things that there was like a BBC iPlayer did like a bit of a fanfare one week and said, we're going to be putting this out at 4K. Maybe that was the Christmas special, maybe? I'll have to engage my bloody memory here. I can't remember, but...
Oh, they did do something, didn't they?
Yeah, I'm sure they did a 4K one-off on iPlayer.
Yeah, because a lot of their stuff is in 4K.
Well, I watched our review episode, The Next Doctor, on iPlayer, and obviously it's not 4K, but it's HD, and that looks reasonably good on there. Looks all right. Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny, is I watched it on. Did I watch it on BritBox or did I watch it on DVD? Because it's now a couple of weeks since we watched it. I can't even remember. Because obviously we were supposed to record a couple of weeks ago, weren't we? We haven't been able to do this review for various reasons. I can't even remember what I watched it on. I have a feeling I tried to get it. I was going to watch it on, must be iPlayer actually, because I don't think... Anyway, yeah, I have a feeling whatever it was I was going to watch it on digitally, I couldn't get it to work, so I had to put the Blu-ray in. I can't remember what happened, but... Feels like I watched this ages ago. I almost felt like I needed to rewatch it again last night just to refresh my memory. But I looked at my notes and I was kind of like, no, I've got it in my head what I thought about it. So,
okay, yeah. So I've just had a very quick look as we're talking, and it was, it was the Christmas special, Revelation of the Daleks. Was that Revolution? Sorry, Revolution.
I was going to say, Colin, in 4K.
Too many R's, yeah. It's Revolution of the Daleks. That was shown in 4K HDR on iPlayer back on January 1st, 2021.
Yeah. Do you remember when they did, they've tried a few little things, haven't they? Do you remember when they did the episode was it Knock Knock? The one with David Suchet, and they said, we're doing a special, like, surround sound. You're going to hear enhanced... sounds in it which are going to make it really creepy, and like people were listening to it with headphones going, I can't, it sounds the same. There's like a pin dropped, but it might have been slightly louder in the mix, and it was like no one could tell any different. Yeah,
I remember that was they put a name on that bit of tech that they what was that? It was,
I can't remember what it was, some
expanded audible mode or something like that.
Yeah, like when Madonna did her album in Q sound, and it was like, what does it mean? It's like just meaningless.
Yeah, well, they are trying, I suppose. They have to spend the license fee somewhere, do a little bit of
money to burn.
Yeah, do a little bit of what's it called, research and development, R&D on stuff, I suppose. I can't remember what the name of that thing was, but I remember now, yeah, there was that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was Knock Knock. I just seem to remember it was that episode, yeah.
Yes. Before we get on to news and reviews and stuff, a little bit of, before you give us a breakdown on something that's coming up on Easter weekend, have you seen the latest rumour in the Next Doctor saga?
Oh no, not another. Who is it this week?
Well, it's not announcing anyone new.
Judith Chalmers is the new.
Judith Chalmers stops travelling for...
God, that's showing me age, isn't it? She's...
this is in relation to somebody that's already been rumoured as the Next Doctor, but there's been a bit of a hiccup as... This is weird to me because... If this is supposedly true, then this is a very big slip up.
Oh, is it? I think I know what you're going to say.
So this is in relation to Faddy. Faddy's had his name thrown into the mix. Anyway, the other day, and this was on this news story landed yesterday. I'm not sure why I've come across this, but it's from Plymouth Live, the website. Right. Plymouth Live. Anyway. Faddy, who has his name's been in the ring now for a couple of months, reportedly as the Next Doctor, took a photo outside Bad Wolf Studios in Wales, and he added it to his Instagram story, and he just put some text over the top of the photo that just said "New Tings," and
New Tings,
a little fox emoji icon next to it. And then what happened was the inevitable, got a slap on the wrist from the BBC, and it was deleted very quickly afterwards. So, what do you make of that dude? His name's been thrown into the ring as the Next Doctor, and then literally in the run-up to the Easter special, he's seen at Bad Wolf Studios, taking a picture, saying new things, and then within literally, I don't know how long it was, 20 minutes, half an hour, he was told to delete the image, and it's gone from his Insta. So what do you make of that?
what I make of that is his agent has said, quick, Faddy, get out to that studio, get a picture of that and get it on Instagram because it's going to, get you a bit of publicity. I don't know. In all seriousness, it was quite intriguing, wasn't it? Because you think, you hear a rumour like that, but like the Hugh Grant one, and you completely dismiss it. But things are crazy in the world of Doctor Who at the moment, and literally anything could happen. So I don't know. Again, I'm sort of dismissing it, but I'm also dismissing it with a pinch of salt because you just don't know. But yeah, I reckon his agent was like, Faddy, go and get a sneaky picture of the building and put it on your Insta. Yeah, and everyone will go crazy.
It does sound a little bit. You never know with these things, do you? Because this could be completely innocent. Faddy could be working on
he could be
completely different thing to Doctor Who. It just so happens to be produced by Bad Wolf, same studio, and it could be it's a completely different thing. The timing is a little bit suspect, though. I will say that. And
is it because I think has production already kicked in the RTD2 era?
I don't know 100% about any type of filming at all, but they're certainly in pre-production for the new stuff. Because Russell, I think he put on his Insta or said in an interview, this was about 2 or 3 weeks ago now, that stuff, the wheels were turning on the new stuff already. So I don't think anything's, cameras are certainly not rolling, I don't think, but at Bad Wolf, they must be in the throes of producing it.
Yeah, the cogs are definitely turning, aren't they? It feels like stuff is happening. But I don't know what Faddy, don't know how you say that.
Faddy.
I don't know what he was doing there. But he could be involved, you see. I mean, his name might have sort of ended up on a spreadsheet that somebody's clocked and they've sold that to the spreadsheet. They say he may be. I really hope they're not trying to bring class into it somehow, because I really just think that I never want that to be mentioned again. I just want that dead and buried. But you never know. They could be trying to reintroduce class into, I don't know, who knows, because all this sort of multiverse and spin-off that we keep hearing about, maybe they're bringing stuff in like that, so who knows. He could be involved is what I'm saying.
Could be in some way.
We shall see.
So the crazy train for the next Doctor continues rolling forward as it always does. And on the round table that went out last week, we spoke about this whole Hugh Grant thing and all that.
Yeah, I mean, again, there's one time when you just completely dismiss that, wouldn't you? You'd say no chance, but you just never know at the minute.
Never know, mate. Yeah,
you never know. And he's done some good stuff recently. He's actually a good actor now. He seems to have got better with age, Hugh Grant, doesn't he? I don't know if I can see him as the Doctor, but he is a good actor, Hugh Grant. That thing he did, the English Scandal or whatever it was called, which I think Russell produced, didn't he? Yeah. So that was the other thing I was thinking, Russell likes to work with the same people, and he did recently work with Russell on that thing. I mean, he was fantastic in that.
He was good, yeah.
So, you don't know.
Who knows? But we have got a certain date in the calendar now, haven't we, dude?
Yes, shocking. Who saw this coming? Doctor Who, the special. So it's going to be Easter Sunday, isn't it?
Easter Sunday.
Have we got a time, or is it just a date?
Have we got a time?
Because they did. I think they did say. Oh no, maybe they didn't. I think I'm imagining things. I did see a flag with like a sea devil on the pirate flag, which actually I thought was pretty cool. I liked that image that was posted recently. So that's something.
Yeah, that was cool. Yeah.
No, I don't think we have got a time yet, mate. I don't know if I've imagined that, but yes. Anyway, Easter Sunday for what's it called? Something of the Sea Devils.
Legend of the Sea Devils. Legend of the Sea
Devils. Yeah. There's been a few few pics doing the rounds, mate. What do you reckon so Doctor Who magazine's got quite a cool Sea Devil on the cover. Should be out today as we record, actually. Have you seen that picture?
I have. It looks good.
It's weird because it looks good, but the head looks really big on it. It looks a bit like a Robert Harrop figurine, which I love. But the heads are always slightly big on them. But yeah, it's like they look cool. They look good.
But
no, I don't know. No, there is. I don't know. There is something about those just a little bit off. The dimensions or something. I'm not sure, but I do think they look good. I just like the fact they haven't changed the design much. I'm just really looking forward to seeing them on screen.
Cool.
One thing I'm confused about though, I was listening to the round table that you guys did. I was listening to it yesterday actually, and Mark was saying about because Chibbers was given this extra episode and how does that affect having, because obviously he'd already written Jodie's regeneration and exit, or her last episode. So I'm confused. In my head, I thought this was the episode he'd written as being like the final, and then and then the centenary one that was sort of came out of nowhere. The extra was the extra special. So I'm sort of confused whether this was the one he'd originally written, or if the centenary was the one that he'd written as Jodie's regeneration one, and this was the extra one that he threw in. Because from what Mark was saying, it was like Mark thought it was like, well, I've been given this extra episode, what haven't I done? Oh, I want to do the Sea Devil. So I'm really confused whether this would have been Jodie's last one, or if this is the sort of one that Chibbers has been given as the extra, if you like.
Oh, okay, right. No, I think this was meant to be, again, this is very loose, and don't take this with a pinch of salt because it's my memory, but
just quoting this, yeah.
I think that this was meant to be the one where we have some kind of regen thing at the end.
That's what I'm assuming, yeah.
And then the centenary one that we've got coming up in whenever that is, that was meant to then just kick off the next series with the next Doctor.
Right.
But now they've got... So, I don't know. Who knows?
Yeah, I'm just a bit confused by that, because I'm thinking, has he... a bit like with Capaldi, wasn't it? Capaldi was going to regenerate in the Cybermancy part, wasn't he? When he got shot and he was on the floor, and that lovely line about, oh, I wanted there to be stars or whatever. That was going to be it. And then they're like, oh no, we need a Christmas special, Stephen. Oh, blimey. Right. So you had to sort of do twice upon a time, which when you watch that episode, and sometimes I watch it and I enjoy it, and sometimes I don't, it does feel filler. I mean, it's not a very strong story, is it? Twice by time. It's got some fun moments, and with David Bradley and stuff, but it does feel like a filler episode to just get to the regeneration. So you can totally see that. So I'm really hoping that's not going to be the case with this, that you're going to feel like the centenary is just a filler one because he had to write another one. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I read you, man. Yeah. I read you. But yeah, it does look, the Sea Devil does look good. I like that image that they've put out recently, and the one that's in the Doctor Who mag, it does look rather good. So, Sunday, the 17th of April, aka Easter Sunday.
Easter Sunday, yeah.
Mark that in your calendar. We have no time yet, just the date. So it's likely to be, what do you reckon, mate? It's probably going to be, what, 6:45?
Yeah,
something like that.
Yeah. I'll be there stuffing my face full of chocolate.
Chocolate, yeah.
Watching it going, yeah.
Yeah. Might not have any beers on that Sunday, though. I don't want to do a Moffat and just start, throwing bottles of wine or cans of beer at the TV. That's not the bloody Sea Devils, how I remember them.
That's not John Pertwee.
Get effing someone in here. Get Sean Pertwee on the phone. I want to talk to him about his dad. And come on. Don't want any of that, do we?
You don't want any of that, no. Just stick to the chocolate.
Stick to the chocolate. Have a sugar rush. Get excited and then crash afterwards. Have a sugar crash. That'll be good. So, yeah. That's kind of what we've been up to. So in terms of Doctor Who, like you and I, we haven't been up to much really, because we've had a busy couple of weeks. So the week before last, I had a mental week at work, really busy. Couldn't find time to record. Last week, you were away on your travels. So we just couldn't, we're on a bit of a relay, like one of us couldn't do it for whatever reason. So Doctor Who stuff, we haven't really done much. So that's the waffle. But we have got some actual news to get into, which we'll do in a second. But before we do that, remember to follow and subscribe to our podcast in your preferred podcast app. We put a new episode out every single Friday, so make sure you're following us so you don't miss those. You can find us in all the popular podcast networks and apps and whatnot. Just do a search for the Big Blue Box, you'll find us there. Or head over to our website, which is bigblueboxpodcast.co.uk. You can listen to all the episodes over there for free as well. Plus, we're on the socials, Instagram, Twitter and Facebook. Links on the website. We chat Doctor Who throughout the week. Plus, we have a free Discord server, so jump on that as well. The link is on the website. Also on the website, you can check out the articles and reviews from our writing team. You would have heard those guys on the round table last week. Go and check out their stuff on there as well. And check out Adam's stuff over on his YouTube channel. It is, as always, The Geek's Handbag.
The Geek's Handbag, yeah. I come back to loads of boxes of nice things. And I was thinking, right, must get some stuff of my socials of these, but they're just sat there. So stuff like the Pirate Planet vinyl was waiting for me when I got back. I was like, oh, lovely things.
Just sat there. Yep.
Yeah, my other half's like, spending money, autumn daffodils. Yeah. Yeah, go and check out my channel.
Yes, go and check out Adam's stuff.
The socials.
And he's on the socials too, under the same name, The Geek's Handbag. Right, buddy, let's jump in the TARDIS and let's do a wee bit of news. So first up, this is very cool. The legend that is Terrance Dicks has had his name associated with an upcoming award, a brand new award aimed specifically at writers influencing the world of Doctor Who. So the Doctor Who Appreciation Society has announced a new award in memory, of course, of Terrance Dicks, who sadly left us a few years ago. 2019, he passed away. And the award will recognise writing across screen, audio, books and magazines, etc., who have all contributed to or enhanced in some way the worlds of Doctor Who. So this is the very first one that's going to happen this year, and it's going to take place at this year's Capital Convention, which is a yearly convention which is run by the DWAS. They have it every year over at the Crowne Plaza Hotel over at Gatwick Airport here in the UK. This year it's coming up soon actually. It's the 2nd and 3rd of April. And Tony Jordan, who organises the event, says that Terrance was adored by fans across the world as well as being a great friend of the Society. In 2010, he received the Society's Outstanding Contribution Doctor Who Award, and it's lovely to now have an award in his venerable name. Never has anyone been more deserving. And then Elsa Dicks, who is going to be presenting the award, says the hallmark of Terrance's writing was his simple, dramatic storytelling. No sentences full of long words, adjectives and flourishes. He was his own critic, rereading what he had written and paring it back if he needed to. He would say, if you want to be a writer, be a reader first. So the books you enjoy will colour your writing. So we've also got a quote here from Mark Gatiss, who says, very hard to express what Terrance Dicks meant to a whole generation, a brilliant TV professional, a funny and generous soul, most of all, though, an inspirational writer who took so many of us on unforgettable journeys into space and time. So this is very cool, dude. So at the DWAS Capital event in a couple of weeks' time, they'll be presenting their very first, the Terrance Dicks Award for Writers. So this is great, right? So not only is it an award to try and encourage people to write more content for Doctor Who across whatever medium they feel would be best for them, but also to put Terrance's name to it. And it's very cool because he's known, obviously, not just for working in the production on the TV side, but his Target books and other books. They're so good, dude. So it's a great name, isn't it, to put to it?
Yeah, it's great. I can imagine there'll be a massive cheer when they give this award at that convention, and rightly so. Terrance is just such a massive part of Doctor Who, isn't he? And like you said, well deserved. What a bulk of material he created over his lifetime. So yeah, it's great. I'm really, really pleased they're doing this. It's
very cool, yeah. And the award itself, the little statue, is in the form of the Master, Delgado's Master.
Oh, is it? I didn't know that.
Yes, and it's been crafted by Gary Glover from Mooncrest Models. And so that's going to be good. And yeah,
is there a picture of that? Where are you
seeing? There's no
that?
picture yet. It's just a description in the press article that we've got. But yeah, it sounds rather good. So we will. I'm sure we'll get some pics after the event in a couple of weeks, and we'll pop them on the socials. But yeah, very good one. This feels very good.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Okay, in other news, there's a cool little charity Doctor Who convention coming up on Saturday the 9th of April. And this is the Bedford Who Charity Con 7, which raises money for the Bedford Food Bank, a local charity that provides food for over 1,400 people, is that?
1,400, yeah.
Every month,
yep.
Guests include Colin Baker, Sophie Aldred, Terry Malloy, Miranda Raisin in a rare convention appearance, Brian Croucher. Oh, he's always good fun. He's crazy, Brian. Mm-hmm. And David Banks. Excellent. Cyber leader Dave Banks. Roger Murray Leach is going to be there. He designed loads of stuff throughout the Tom Baker era, as well as Blake Seven. And there's going to be you can take advantage of a 10% reduction on your tickets if you email the organisers, and Gary will put links and stuff, I assume, in the description of on the Blue Box page. So have a look at this, because it'll be worth getting 10% off. And it's a great little guest list, that, isn't it? So you've got Colin and Sophie, Terry Malloy, he's always good fun, Davros himself.
Yeah, so, it's really good. Yeah.
Yeah, and David Banks. Yeah, so it sounds like a cool little convention. Bedford Who Charity Con 7. Number 7, yeah. So this has been going for a few years now. We cover this every year to let you guys know when it's on. So if you're around this part of the country, so Bedford, Bedfordshire, it's at the King's House, Ampthill Road in Bedford, Saturday the 9th, and it's from 10 o'clock until 5:30. And the good thing about this is this is not a showmasters, like, show me the money, like, show me the money. This is every single penny that they make from ticket sales and all that stuff goes to the Bedford Food Bank. So it's a very, very good cause. It's very cool. And who doesn't like seeing Colin Baker and Sophie Aldred get up on stage and give us some insight and some cool stories about their time on Who and the other people. So it's really good. So Brian Croucher, like you said, is really good. Mike Tucker's going to be there, and Terry Malloy. It's a cool little it's a cool little lineup. Yeah, it's very cool. Yeah, so I'll stick a link in the show notes, as Adam said, and if you're about, then go and do that so that's the week after the Capital event. So I think the 9th of April. That's cool, because whenever you go to an event, you always get like the blues afterwards, and you're already like, when's my next convention? So you'll be able to go to that. It'd be cool. Indeedy. Get rid of those convention blues, yeah.
Rightio, that's news. We are going to crack on with our review this week. Dude, what have we got?
This week, it's a Christmas special, and it's The Next Doctor.
You there, boy, what day is this?
Christmas Eve, sir. 1851, sir.
Right, nice year. Bit dull.
This creature came out of the shadows. A man made of metal.
What manner of men are they?
Cybermen.
The Cyber Kings will rise.
They are my knights in shining armor. Quite literally.
What do the Cybermen want?
I want every living thing to be like them.
Now let the new industrial revolution begin.
The Next Doctor. This is the first in a series of specials, right? So when David Tennant's proper Series 4 finished up, they had a whole year to fill before Series 5 kicked in with the new showrunner, Stephen Moffat, and all that stuff. So this is the first one they did. This was at Christmas, right? This was the 25th of December, 2008. And then they did one in Easter, which was Planet of the Dead. Then they did one a bit later on, which was Waters of Mars. And then they finished up later on after that with The End of Time, parts 1 and 2.
That's it, yeah.
So this is a kind of strange little thing, because I remember at the time thinking, this is not your run-of-the-mill. You just get to the end of a series, you regen to a new Doctor, and next series starts whenever. They did this whole year of a bit of time off for everybody, I think, and just wrapping up and doing these series of specials in a similar way that they're doing with Jodie now, I suppose. That kind of thing.
Yeah, it's weird though. It didn't feel like, I don't know, at the time it didn't feel like it does, like with the Jodie thing. It feels really spaced out. I don't remember feeling that so much at the time, but maybe it was, I don't know. It feels like there's more of a gap with the specials we're getting at the minute.
I think that's because of COVID, dude, and other gaps and all that stuff. It adds up, So anyway, The Next Doctor. It was, as I said, first broadcast on Christmas Day, 2008. It was written by Russell T Davies, directed by Andy Goddard, and stars David Tennant, David Morrissey as Jackson Lake, and reasonably sized support cast, I guess. And the synopsis is Christmas 1851, and Cybermen stalk Victorian London. The 10th Doctor discovers a spate of mysterious deaths, and he's surprised to meet another Doctor. Are 2 Doctors enough to stop the rise of the Cyber King?
The Cyber King.
What do you reckon to this one, bud? Hit us.
Russell, you tease. Russell loves to tease. I'm thinking, because, when you look back at this, when this came out and stuff, the next Doctor, and we knew Tennant was leaving, and it was like, God, is David Morrissey the next Doctor? And then you had that thing that Russell did when a couple of episodes before. Remember when that amazing cliffhanger when Tennant was regenerating when he got shot by the Dalek, and it was just, Russell was brilliant at just drawing you in and always being one step ahead. So the next Doctor was a bit of a sort of tease in the title and stuff, and obviously for the first 20 minutes or so you don't know what's going on. Why is there two Doctors? And I have to be honest, I really like this one, and I don't get why it gets a bit of a kick in. Whenever I speak to people about this one, it kind of gets dismissed. And I feel like people maybe think it was just a bit of a tease, a bit of a sort of fluff episode that was built around trying to trick people. So maybe a bit of a one-trick pony. But watching it again the other night, I've watched it a few times over the years. I really liked it on transmission. And I've watched it a few times since over the years. I watched it again a couple of weeks ago when we were originally going to record. And I just think it's a fun Christmas episode. I don't think it's trying to be anything other than that, and it's just entertaining. It still looks really good. I mean, the opening scene with Tennant walking through, that town with all the snow and the cameras gliding around him, it's beautiful. It still stands up really well, I think, in terms of production. Even the Cyber King, which is, very CGI heavy, looks a bit dated, I suppose, but even that I think still looks pretty good. So I think visually it's a beautiful episode, and I really thought the direction was good. Who did you say the director was? Because when I expected it to be like Euros Lyn or a name that I knew, and when the name came up, Andy Goddard, I was thinking, I don't really recognise that name. I don't know how many Doctor Who's he did or whatever, but I thought the direction of this was absolutely superb. There's loads of sort of funny angled shots, and the woman in the red dress coming through the snow. The episode to me looks beautiful, and I think it's just a fun, simple story. The whole who is this other Doctor thing gets wrapped up fairly early on in the story, earlier than I remembered, to be honest. And I think that's a good thing, because when you rewatch it, like when you're watching it the first time, you're sort of hanging on every word trying to work out who the other Doctor is. But once you know that, on a rewatch, you just kind of want to get on with the story. So I think they timed it about right, really. They get it out the way about 20 minutes in. They sort of do the reveal of actually why he thinks he's the Doctor. And I just think it's fun. You got the air balloon, Tennant in the air balloon at the end, visually very cool. Cybermen, they're okay in it. It's not a great Cyberman story. I guess I could agree with that. Didn't like the Cyber Shades on a first watch. I remember thinking they looked really naff. They've kind of grown on me over the years as just a bit of a sort of typical budget Doctor Who monster. I've grown not to dislike them as much. I actually think they're okay. Overall, I think it's just a fun Christmas special. It still gives me that real feel-good feeling that I want from a special. So when it ends and they walk off together and Jackson Lake talks the Doctor into going for Christmas dinner, it's just a lovely feel-good end to an episode. It's exactly what I want at Christmas. So I think it's a good Christmas special. May not be the best story, may not be anything special, but it's just a good feel-good episode, I think. I just really enjoyed rewatching it.
Interesting. I can't decide this week whether I like it or not.
It's not like you to be on the fence.
Yeah, because I must have seen this episode maybe, I'd say when I watched this last night, it's probably the fifth time that I've seen it, I guess.
Yeah. And
every time I watch it, I have a slightly different opinion on it. Sometimes I think that was incredibly boring. Other times I think that was really good. Yeah, and I'm not sure where my head's thinking on this one this week. So probably as we talk through it, it'll sway me either way. But it's a brilliant red herring of an episode, though, especially at the time when this was announced, because they filmed this in the same production block as the actual series, series 4.
Yeah,
and that way they could get a proper trailer in for it at the end of. Was it Journey's End? I think was the was the finale at series 4. So they got a proper trailer and everything like that. And then when Russell was being interviewed, like one of the interviews he did with the Radio Times, he said the Doctor finds himself staring at that inevitable day when his 10th incarnation must die. So that then set fans off on a, holy crap, David Tennant's Doctor's going to, that's it, he's going to cop it. And so the title of the episode, the sort of teasing from Russell in the interviews and stuff, I think everybody honestly thought that this was it for David Tennant. Like series 4 had been and gone, and now the specials were kicking in, and we're going to have a new Doctor, as the name suggested. So it was a great red herring and a really good. Obviously, now when you look back on it, it's meaningless. But at the time, I can imagine a lot of Who fans losing their beep at that. So I like that aspect of it, and I think overall it's I think it's a cool little isolated stories. It's one of those Christmas specials that hasn't fallen foul of the previous ones where it's left on a bit of a cliffhanger that leads into the next series. It's like, at the end, it's just like, come and have Christmas dinner. Everything's cool. So it's a cool little isolated story, which is great. And it has that Christmassy feel, I guess, at times. And, that's all good. So it's an enjoyable little sort of one-off story. And the other thing I do like about it is it kicks off this, it kind of cements this arc that they did throughout the specials where the Doctor starts to contemplate his own death coming up. So it's one of those things where the Doctor's not really even talking or thinking about regeneration. He's actually thinking about properly dying throughout these specials, isn't he? He's not one of, in previous eras where the Doctor's spoken about regeneration, they hardly ever talk about actually dying and never coming back. They always talk about, regen. So this is an interesting thing where Russell kicked off this sort of darker tone to the specials where it's light-hearted for the most part, but then you have these certain scenes where David Tennant brilliantly acts with his face and doesn't say anything about, like in this one, I think Jackson Lake says to him, he's found his son towards the end, and the Doctor's like, you've got, you found your son, you've got, loads to live for, sort of thing. I think his reply is something like, yeah, but you haven't. And there's just that pause where the Doctor gives him that, David Tennant's face, that doom and gloom, like something foreboding is coming. So, and we have that a lot. So we have it a couple of times in the next one. We definitely have it quite a few times in The Waters of Mars. So I like that. It kicks off this sort of slight tone change for the Doctor's upcoming regen, which we know is on the way. So some good stuff. And like you said, it's just a fun watch. The only thing I can't seem to sort of get my head around is the Cybermen implementation in this one. It feels very, I'm not sure. It just feels a little bit. So these Cybermen, as the Doctor explains, I guess, quite loosely in the episode, are the surviving Cybermen that are crossed into end space, from a previous sort of thing that happened with the dimension. They fell through the dimension gap at the end and fell through time, sort of thing. So that's kind of cool in a way, but I guess it's just one of those stories where the main monster in the story, I guess, ends up being just a bit of a servant / henchman for somebody else. You know what I mean? It's not like the Cybermen and the Cyber Leader and eventually the Cyber King thing have got their own motivations to sort of take over the planet and do that. It's more just this woman's just got sour grapes and now she's just using the Cybermen, to accomplish her sort of revenge on the people that have ignored her whole life. And there's a bit of a twist, I guess, where, they've told her the whole time that she won't be converted and at the end they do. And
yeah, that's quite dark, that bit.
That's quite dark, yeah. So I guess it's just really, for me, the bit that sort of puts me on the fence is the Cybermen part of it. They're not really that threatening, let's be honest. They're not really... Yeah, it's one of those stories where they're just not really used that well, to me. But the rest of it's quite good.
I'm not a massive fan of the Cybermen from the RTD era, to be honest. I don't think... I hate the stomping, for a start. It's just ridiculous. You know, I don't really like the design of them either. I never have. I just don't like the redesign of the Cybermen. So I mean, they're not particularly utilised that well in it. But they do, as I said, there are scenes like when they're in the graveyard and then, you know, they're killing all those guys. That's probably the most menacing scene with them. And I kind of like this sort of Oliver Twist type thing where they've got all the kids working, you know, as well. That's quite menacing with the Cybermen standing over them. So they're okay, but you're right, they're a bit surplus in the story. Because what is her name? The woman, the main character in the big red dress. She plays it quite well. So she's really the main villain, isn't she?
It's Hartigan, yeah. She's Dervla Kirwan. Yeah, she's been in loads of things.
Yeah, she's done loads. Yeah, she's a good actor, and I really like the bit at the end actually when the Doctor disconnects her so she could see what she's become, because I think that's quite a nice idea actually. Because I think it's quite relatable in ways. You sometimes you do just get so lost in, you know, what you become, and then if you could sort of sometimes step back away from who you are and look at yourself, and that's what he does basically, isn't it? He makes take a step back and say, look what you've become, and it's quite shocking really. And I thought that was a really nice simple idea that Russell threw in there to sort of, you know, to bring the story to a conclusion, that she's like, oh my God, what am I actually doing? You know, so yeah, but I agree. I think the Cybermen, it's not a particularly great Cyberman story. And what do you think of the Cyber Shades? They're a bit, I'm a bit Marmite with them. I think they're rubbish, but part of me over the years has kind of grown to like them because they're rubbish. You know, a bit like stuff in Classic Who that is really crap, but you like it because it's so crap. I don't know. The Cyber Shades, what do you reckon to them? There's no thread to them, is there, really?
Well, there's a bit in the graveyard where they're leaping on people and taking them out, and
I think it's because it looks too much like a person in a suit, doesn't it?
It does. I'll tell you, it reminds me of, it's the whole school play thing, you know, when you get people in the donkey costume.
Yeah.
You know, it's, or you have somebody in like a gorilla suit, and, you know, it's got that sort of thing.
There's a Blake 7 episode where there's these people dressed up as gorillas and they go around killing people, and it's, even though they try to barely show them on screen, they really try to minimise how much you see of these dreadful costumes. It still looks awful, and it just reminds me of that. I was just like, oh dear. Yeah, it's good that they're not on screen very much. I mean, the opening scene, I think this is why I sort of like this one, because there's so many fun bits. So when we get the opening with the two Doctors being pulled along by the Cyber Shade up the building and stuff, that's, you know, it's a really fun intro, and Tennant and David Morrissey, they seem to bounce off each other quite well. I think that's what I like about it. I do like the chemistry between those two, which they seem to hit the mark for me anyway from the get-go. So straight away in that scene with the Cyber Shade, it's fun, and the Doctors have both got their sonic, although one is actually just a screwdriver and stuff like that. And yeah, I think it's really fun scenes between those two. I think that's what holds it together for me, is some nice fun moments, nice chemistry between David Tennant and Dave Morrissey. I love the bit with the fob watch as well, when you think David's like, the Doctor's like, it's all in here, and he opens it and just the spring pops out. I thought that's just brilliant, because that again, it builds up to be, oh my God, is this going to reveal something big? And it's just like, no, it's just a little gag.
Yeah.
But Cyber Shades, mate, you a fan?
They're okay. There's just one thing I will say is they're not forgettable. That's a thing. You know, sometimes in Who, when they try and do things like this, and you end up just forgetting about it, and it's not until you have a convo with somebody like, oh yeah, those things. You never really forget these, because they're forgettable to the plot and to the story, but they're very unique, aren't they? They're not your average sort of Spider-Man. Where'd that come from? They're not your average Cyberman kind of thing. A bit like the Cybermats, you know, you never forget those things because they're like a tiny sort of variation on the whole Cyberman lore thing. So I think
we don't see them again, do we?
I was going to say, I think the fact that they've never popped up in anything else since is a bit of an indication of their popularity. But I think they're just a little fun little. It's just a fun little thing
with the multicoloured Daleks. They're just in that storeroom. Get in there. We won't be using you again.
Yeah, boot them in there. Right, stay in there.
Well, they're called the Paradigm Daleks. So just shoved in the cupboard with them.
Yeah. So I can't say that they add
suits next to them.
I can't say that they add anything particularly to the story. They don't move the plot along. They don't have any consequence to anything really that happens. It's just a fun little, these things are, yeah. And also, but you can tell that was one of the things that you could tell that the CG was a little bit dated now. So that beginning sequence where it's running up the building vertically, because it's fur. I think the visual effects team, what was it, the Mill at this time, they struggled a little bit to make it look convincing. So there's like this furry, blurry sort of thing around it because, it's not like a hard-edged object that you can nicely cut out and superimpose. It's got all this fur knocking about and stuff. So it looks a little bit dated, that bit. But that's a fun sequence, though, at the beginning.
Yeah, I thought it was a fun way to kick off the episode and adds a bit of mystery to who the Doctor is and stuff. The new Doctor, that is. Yeah,
and talking of visually and how it looks and stuff, there's a bit of a coincidence when we were talking about HD and 4K earlier. This was the first, it was the final story that was produced in standard definition. And then starting with the next one, so Planet of the Dead, that's when they started production using HD.
Right.
But it's also the first standard definition story that was released on Blu-ray that was upscaled. So they did like a bit of, let's just up the quality a little bit and upscale it. Whereas from the Planet of the Dead onwards, that's like a true, filmed in HD, released in Blu-ray HD. So it does look, so when I watched this on iPlayer, that was the upscaled HD version.
Right.
And for the most part, I thought it looked pretty good. Visually, like you were saying earlier, it's a nice looking episode. There's not too much going on other than sort of the end sequence with the Cyber King thing, and also when Tennant's up in the balloon, part of the same sequence. The rest of it is fairly sort of practical on-set effects, really. There isn't a great deal in CG, other than that last sequence, obviously, which, like you said, is very heavy for obvious reasons. There's no way you could have constructed a 500-foot robot to go stomping around. But
Cyber King,
so it's and direction-wise as well, do you want to pick up on that? Like you were saying, direction-wise, it's got a nice mix of sort of slow scenes. Like there's a bit where, when the Doctor's explaining, it goes on for about a good 5-6 minutes, where he's explaining to Jackson Lake about how he came, how he sort of came into possession of the little contraption. What are they called? Those little
those little canister things.
The info stamps. How he sort of used that to kill off a couple of the Cybermen, but at the same time it sort of rebounds into his mind and he lost his memory and stuff. Those scenes are really nice. It's just those three sort of sat around the fire. It's quite nice and intimate in that way. But then the action scenes are very good. So when Miss Hartigan, instructs the Cybermen and the Shades to kill everybody in the courtyard, and that opening sequence we spoke about, and some other bits, it had a really good mix, I found, of being a little bit intimate and static in a good way, but also quite fluid.
I love the scene when he shows Jackson who he really is, because obviously we get to see classic Doctors on just briefly, which is always nice. We always love it when they throw in some classic Doctors clips, but also I just thought Tennant is so good in those scenes, and I'm one of those people that at the time thought Tennant was good, but wasn't blown away by him. Thought he was a good Doctor, but a bit too human. But I've gone back and really sort of grown to appreciate how good David Tennant was, and so now I'm sort of a bit of a defender of him. So I saw some people saying, "Oh yeah, he really homes it in his performance on this one," and I'm thinking, I don't think that's true. I don't think that's fair, because there are scenes like that when he's really delivering a beautiful, like you said, very still performance. He's doing a lot of acting with his face and, the emotion on the face and stuff. So I don't think it's fair to say he was, homing in a performance. Is that the saying? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just going through the motions. I don't think that's fair, because he is really good in it. And I think sometimes when people say that, it's because he's just quite natural in the performance that people think, oh, he can just do that off the top of his head. But I think it's more the fact that he's just so into the character that it's just a natural performance, not so much that he's just, doing it as it is. But he's great in those scenes.
He is, yeah. And I think the scenes where David Tennant and David Morrissey are together, there is a good chemistry between those two. There is a good sort of mutual understanding, I guess, between... Because the Doctor clocks on very early, doesn't he? Very quickly, that this guy is he? No, he can't be another... because Jackson Lake, as the Doctor at that point, for sort of the first half of the episode, he's very... you can tell he's not a legit Time Lord because he's very forthcoming with all his information. He's quite proud, this is my TARDIS,
Yeah.
And it's a hot air balloon, and, he starts throwing Time Lord stuff around and stuff like that. Whereas the actual Doctor's a lot more reserved with that stuff and doesn't like to, shout about that stuff. So you can tell it's not a legit thing. And the Doctor sort of clocks that reasonably early. So the scenes where Jackson Lake still thinks he's the Doctor, the actual Doctor is kind of going along with it, isn't he? He's sort of going along with it because he doesn't want... He's trying to figure out more so why this person thinks he's the Doctor. So he's kind of playing his game for a while. And that's leads to sort of some funny moments and some interesting conversations. And it's not until that bit, like you said, that scene that's really good where he explains to him what's happened to him and he's not really the Doctor and he's this person, Jackson Lake. Then it becomes a little bit more... The tone changes from being humorous a lot of the times, a bit more emotional. So Jackson Lake is now starting to piece together what's happened and his wife being killed by the Cybermen and his kid going missing, who he finds at the end. It's a bit more of a, okay, we've had the sort of funny, the funny stuff between them. And there are a couple of scenes where you do question your own self as well. You're thinking, is he the Doctor? There's a bit where there's a bit of a suspenseful bit about the fob watch the first time David Tennant has to see it.
Yeah.
And the music builds a little bit and you think, is this the thing? And then he opens it and just stuff falls out. And so there's a few more twists along the way. But yeah, I think David Morrissey does a really good, genuine performance, I think. Not so much as the Doctor. I think that's a lot of bravado and a lot of, he just thinks he's playing the game, but more so when he realizes who he is, that's when I think his best performance comes out. He just plays that so genuinely and so emotionally. It's very good. Did you think that one thing that I thought we would see more of, but I thought we did in the previous times I watched it, it's been a while since I watched it, I thought there was more action stuff and interaction between David Morris's character and the Cybermen, but it turns out that other than the flashback scenes that we saw, and then just one more scene, we know he turns up and he's got all the info stamped in like a sort of ammo belt around his
that was cool. Yeah.
There's not really that much between them. It's more so it sort of saves it for the big finale between David Tennant's Doctor and Miss Hartigan at the end sort of thing. But do you think we should have seen more Jackson Lake versus the Cybermen? Maybe that would have helped to cement his character as a bit more of a badass, I suppose.
Maybe a bit at the end. I felt like maybe he should have saved his son at the end.
Right.
It seemed like, because the Doctor does it, doesn't he? And I felt like it would have been nice if actually it had been Jackson that because up until this point, like you said, when he thinks he's the Doctor, there's a lot of bravado from Jackson Lake, and yet underneath it all, he knows really it's bravado because, for example, he's got the air balloon TARDIS, but he's never flown it because he's too scared to get in it. And I love stuff like that because it creates the vulnerability in a character that makes you like them. So I just felt, I like the fact that, the Doctor tells Jackson who he really is, which pushes Tennant's Doctor to the forefront of the story. And now he's going to sort out the Cybermen and Miss Hartigan. So that's all cool. But then, you've grown to like Jackson Lake at this point, and I think it would have been nice because I like this twist as well, that he keeps thinking, this memory I've got, there's someone else in the room. So we know his wife's been killed, but he knows there was someone else in the room. You're thinking, who is it? And you're sort of, was it the Doctor? Who else was in the room? Turns out to be his son, which is the sort of reveal at the end, which I'd completely forgotten about, if I'm honest. And I thought that was a nice little twist, but after all the sort of build-up of Jackson Lake finding out who he really is, and the Doctor saying, yeah, but you still did all those things. You may not be the Doctor, but you were the Doctor. It would have been nice, I think, if you, like you just said, if he'd been a bit more in the action at the end, and I think he should have been the one to have saved his son.
Right.
And then that would have just sort of brought his sort of story a bit more full circle, rather than the Doctor being the hero who's already done quite a lot of saving and does the big save at the end. You know, for the Doctor to be the one that jumps up and gets the kid. I just felt, that should have been Jackson Lake. I don't know if there was a reason for it. I can't remember, because as I was watching that, I was thinking it, but I do remember thinking afterwards, I suppose if Jackson had done it, but I don't know. But I think that would have been cool if they could have written it to be Jackson, just made him the one that saves his son. And then
that would have been cool, actually.
Yeah, rather than the Doctor.
Yes. No, I agree.
I think there might have been a reason I thought they couldn't do it, but I can't remember. Yeah,
that would have been good.
Yeah.
So David Morrissey, he had a good one, I think. I think he plays it, spot on as he was cast to do.
I think he's great in it. I really, really like him in it, actually. Yeah, I think he gives a great performance. What
did you think to Miss Hartigan, then played by Dervla Kirwan? Because she's again very well cast. She has this very much, she's got a grudge against the men of the town that have treated her quite poorly, or not treated her poorly, but just not paid her any attention, not even asked her name over the years. None of that stuff. So very, very sour grapesy and a grudge. And she's got that typical kind of villain-esque thing going on a lot. She's almost like a Disney villain.
Yeah,
throughout much of it.
That's a good shout.
Yeah. So, sometimes with villains in Doctor Who, sometimes they're written to be kind of three-dimensional, where you see sort of one side of them, which is you can see why they're doing what they're doing, and then the other side is the reason for that. So you see the baddie side and the cruel intention, but then you also see the emotional side and what's happened to them and why. With this one, I felt it was a bit two-dimensional, though. She was very much, not necessarily hamming it up, but, she just played the Disney villain quite well throughout most of it.
The Disney villain's a good shout, actually. I think that's a good comparison. I think she was borderline hammy. I thought she was good in it. I thought she was good casting, and I thought she was a good villain, but she is right on the edge of sort of being like the pantomime villain witch sort of thing. But I did think she was quite good, and I do like the scene when she thinks she's the one in control and the cyber leader puts her in the chair and she's like, what are you doing? And that's a cool moment, actually, when they put the cyber sort of head on her. It's quite dark for a Christmas special, that one little bit, but no, I think she's pretty cool in it. I know what you mean. There are bits where she's just on the edge of going over the top and stuff, but I think she's got a good menace to her, and I think she plays that sort of bitter, scorned woman quite well. The scene in the graveyard when she's killing off all the guys, I think she's great in that scene, when she waltzes up in the red dress and she's playing it quite straight at that point. I think it's a good scene, that is. She's quite menacing. The thing with the stomping Cybermen as well, there is a line thrown in where the Doctor says, how did you sneak up on us? If you put your legs on silent or mute or something? And I thought, that's so true. How can those things creep up on anyone stomping around? But no, she's all right, mate. I think she was good casting for. She works well in a Christmas special environment, I think I could say. If she was in a sort of normal episode, you might think she was a bit OTT, but I think for a Christmas special, she's quite cool. Yeah, as a villain.
And from one woman to the next, what did you think to the pseudo Doctor's companion, which has been, very cleverly titled as Rosita, as the companion played by, I'm going to butcher this name, so I'm very sorry. I think it's Velil Tarbalala. I think it's a couple of silent letters there. So I'm very sorry if I've butchered that. But she plays like the sort of London Cockney, woman about, a bit of street smarts and knows what's going on. Brave as well. She gets involved, gets her hands dirty with stuff. I think she was kind of cool, but it was funny to see the Doctor's reaction when Jackson Lake introduces her as Rosita, and he's like, "Oh, nice name." He sort of gives that sort of little smile. And I think the way that David Tennant plays that couple of seconds where he grins, I think is a shared emotion with what the viewers were doing as well when they heard the name. So, but she was kind of cool though. She was good.
She was good, but a bit like you said about your memory of thinking Jackson was in it more. I thought she was in it a hell of a lot more than she is. She's only she's there a lot at the start and at the end, but I thought she was much more involved in the action than she is. But yeah, she's good in the role. Yeah, she plays the part well. But yeah, we don't see anywhere near as much of her as I thought we did. I thought, again, a bit like you, I thought there was a lot more of her and Jackson Lake doing stuff than there actually is. But they make a good team. I think if we had seen more of them, I would have been happy with it. Yeah.
No, I agree. Yeah. And we also had a couple of other people pop up. So there was quite a few people that played relatively small parts, but they popped up a few times, like all of the guys that were running sort of the business side of things in London and just throwing their kids into the boarding schools, and the people in the graveyard, essentially, who she has killed, but then she keeps a few of them behind to sort of serve as servants for stuff. So they were okay. Nothing too crazy with those guys. We did have a small performance from Neil McDermott, who up until that point, I think, was just his primary acting gig was, what's his name? Ryan in EastEnders. He was in EastEnders for ages, and he's the guy that's sort of looking after the air balloon and,
because I don't watch EastEnders. I can't think who he is.
Yeah, so when the Doctor turns up, he's like, "Come on, we need to get this thing off the ground," sort of thing. He's like, "Oh, I don't know," and he's like, "I'll give you £5 British," and that guy. He's like, "Oh, all right then."
Yeah.
So he was kind of cool, but yeah, I obviously not an EastEnders watcher, but he was okay. Again, just playing the typical sort of London barrow boy, Cockney kind of
all right,
character.
Mate.
Yeah,
got your air balloon here and I.
Yeah, got your air balloon. Yeah, that kind of thing. So there were a few sort of performances that were not standout. Like you wouldn't think back to the story and think, "Oh yeah, do you remember the character Jed from the next Doctor who did the hot air balloon stuff?" You wouldn't sort of remember that actively, but not terrible performances all round, I would say. Sometimes with who you look at the supporting cast and you think, "Oh, they were okay. They're not really taking it seriously," or it wasn't their best sort of performance. But I thought, most of them, in fact, all of them played them pretty well. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say so, because no one sticks in my mind as, no one stood out as being a bit naff. I think the cast are pretty much, into it and pretty good in this. The cyber leader looks pretty cool in this one with his big old brain. He's pretty menacing. Again, he's hardly in it though, is he? The cyber leader. He only really does that bit with the chair, doesn't he? But yeah, no one stands out as being bad in it from what I can remember. No, they're all pretty solid.
Think so. Yeah, all pretty good. Okay, and what about the Cyber King then at the end? So this is the big old thing that she's got the kids, the Iron Giant, that she's got the kids to construct and slave laboured over to get it all working, I think. Again, so this is the thing, anything to do with the Cybermen with this story is the thing that's got me on the fence. So I think it's kind of cool. It's a great concept, I think. It's kind of cool, but again, just sort of thwarted a lot too easily by the Doctor. This is not any threat to him, really, is it?
No, it was. I must admit, it is defeated too easily. I think Russell says, it might be in that book, that really cool book. I can't remember where I remember hearing it, but he said he thought afterwards of a much better way of getting rid of it, because he was thinking, how can I stop this thing? How can I stop the Cyber King falling on everyone and killing everyone in the village? So, yeah, the Doctor does it quite easily with that device. But I think Russell said after writing it, after it sort of aired about like a year or two later, he suddenly just randomly thought, "Oh, I know what I should have done." And Julie Gardner was like, "Oh, why didn't you think of that at the time?" But I don't know what it was. But yeah, I mean, it's wrapped up pretty quick. It doesn't bother me. And the Cyber King itself, I think this is one of the things that divides fandom. I think some people will look at that and think it is a ridiculous idea, not necessarily the design, but they'll think, well, what is the point of that Cyber King? Other people, like myself, will quite like it because I find it's retro. It reminds me of the Iron Giant, which I loved as a kid. And again, I can forgive it because it's in a Christmas special. It feels like something a little bit silly, but it's Christmas and it's fun, and I like the design of it because it's very retro. And this is the last. I'm pretty sure this is the last Christmas special that I can remember watching with my family, because I can clearly remember sitting in the room. It was like my parents' turn to do the big Christmas get-together. So we had all of my family, like my aunts and uncles. No one was particularly watching it. I couldn't hear any of it. But I do remember when the Cyber King come on the screen on my dad's big television. You know, there were a few little, ooh, like it got people's attention, you know, like I can remember my dad saying, hey, what's that then? And all, you know, so there, it was the last sort of thing really that I can remember where I was watching it with family and something in Doctor Who grabbed their attention that they liked. So I think maybe for that reason, I like it, but I can see why people would think it's a bit ridiculous. Yeah, but it's Christmas. Yeah, anything goes. Come on.
Anything goes with Who at Christmas. Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah, let's just have fun.
Yeah, so I think I don't mind it either. It's okay. It's yeah, I just think it's a decent enough watch, but nothing too memorable that's going to be a talking point. I don't think so. But a couple of things I do before, just to close out. There are a couple of things that I do really appreciate in this one. So the first one is, like I said, I really like David Morris's performance in it. I think he plays it very well, and it's surprising really because Martin Clunes was cast first of all as Jackson Lake. Yeah,
God.
So Martin Clunes was cast, and he pulled out at the last minute. So really? David Morrissey was only cast as that in that role like 4 or 5 days before they started making it.
Now, no offense to Martin Clunes, he's a great actor, but I just can't see him pulling off the same level of sort of emotion. Really.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, it might have been all right, but I can't imagine that.
Yeah, so that's that, and that thing you're talking about with not being happy, Russell T Davies not being happy about the ending. I think he said that he wanted to go back and change it so that, or at the time wished he had written it where Miss Hartigan, you know, she sort of redeems herself and makes the Cyber King disappear herself, rather than the Doctor doing it with the Dimension Vault thing with the time vortex and stuff like that. Yeah. Which is fair enough, I guess. That would have been, you know, a slightly better redemption for her, I guess. But and then lastly, it's always good, you know, to see little flashbacks or little things around past Doctors. So when the Doctor's got one of those info stamps and we see, you know, Hartnell through to Eccleston and stuff, that's always a cool little, you know, just remind you that you're watching
a nice moment.
Yeah, it just reminds you every now and then that you're watching something that's a much bigger universe of connected stuff, rather than, even though this is a cool little isolated story, it just reminds you it's the world of all Doctor Who. So that was kind of cool. Was there anything else on your list, dude, that you want to talk about?
Not really, no. The only thing I wanted to mention was that because we've had this a few times when we watch a Tennant episode, and this comes back to what I was saying about how I sort of appreciate more his Doctor than I did maybe at the time, and that is that it gave me the feels. It just gave me that feel good feeling that when I finished watching it may not have been like an outstanding, the best story, but it had so many nice moments in it that it kept me going all the way through. And again, I just loved it when the Doctor's, he's itching to get away. He doesn't want to do the Christmas dinner thing. And Jackson's like, come on.
I insist.
And I thought he did that thing of saying, yeah, I'll just get my coat and takes off. I must be getting confused with another episode, because I was quite surprised when he actually does go off with him at the end. But it was just a lovely ending, and it just gave me the feels of what I used to feel from Doctor Who, which I sadly don't get at the moment. So for that, I really enjoyed it. And why I'm talking about this is because it then, and I haven't done this in ages, so I must have been watching the DVD now I think about it. I put on the Doctor Who Confidential afterwards.
Oh, they're cool, aren't they?
Yeah, but I never normally do that. Not for any particular reason. I think I just felt like this glow afterwards that I felt like watching it. And it was really interesting. I'd forgotten how long they were, though, because I was thinking it was like a 20-minute. I thought, I'll just watch Doctor Who Confidential. I'm just intrigued to see the behind the scenes of this one. And it's about an hour long, because I think later on the DVDs, they just put the cut downs, didn't they? But on this one, it's it's an hour long Doctor Who Confidential. And it was interesting, mate, because it's fun to see all the behind the scenes stuff. But what is also interesting is hearing Russell talk, because obviously now we've got him coming back. And do you know what? There's this little moment when David Tennant is winding up Russell, and so is David Morrissey. I think they're both saying they're having a little fun sort of matey joke between each other. And David's like, "Oh, Russell's always going on about not running left and right. He likes to put in scenes where you're going up and down," and they're all laughing about it. And Russell, and you think, well, yeah, what's that about, Russell? But then Russell explains. He's like, when you're watching a TV show, you know, everyone's running left to right and it gets boring. So I try and put in going up and down builders. And you think, well, that sounds crazy. But actually, when they're showing the scenes and he's talking over it, he's on about them going up the building, and it does make it more exciting. And I thought, just the fact that Russell was sat there and thought about that tiny little detail just shows how much he cares. And also what a great writer he is, just to think of these silly little things that we would probably dismiss, you know, up and down, left and right. What's he on about? And yet when they do show what he means on screen, it makes perfect sense. And I thought it does sort of, it does give me a bit of faith in, like, yeah, Doctor Who's in safe hands with him. He does really think about these little things that do make quite a big difference when you're watching a program. And there's something else he talks about, which I've completely forgotten about. And I remember thinking, God, yeah, that's just such a small detail, but you've really, that really does work. You know, he's you know, I'm really pleased that Russell's going back, having watched The Confidential. I'd just forgotten how much he is so passionate about every little thing to do with the show. A bit like that ending, isn't it? He's still thinking about it a year later and thinking, oh, I could have done that. You know, he's not one that's just going to, oh, let's get this episode done. It's a filler, done with, sort of thing. So, yeah, but it was cool to watch The Confidentials, mate. I would love it if we got those again when the series comes back. It'd be brilliant, because just seeing all the little behind the scenes stuff was so fun, you know? Like when they're being pulled by the cyber shades, they're sat on these little seats being pulled across this dusty warehouse. And I mean, you'd think that'd be horrible. But David Tennant and David Morrissey get up and they're laughing and joking and saying, blimmin' heck, you know, how fast are they going to pull us, and all this sort of stuff. And it's brilliant to see some of the behind the scenes stuff. And I hope we get that again. It makes a big difference, actually. It takes you into the world of it, you know. And you got Danny the effects man. Remember Danny?
Dan, yeah.
Explosion guys.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
it's just, yeah, it's really, really cool to see all that stuff.
Yeah, we were gutted, weren't we, when they stopped doing those confidentials, because they're such a... You can see why. It's a lot of time and effort, and which, you know, in a world of TV production equals money to do them. They're a lot more in-depth than your standard special features on a Blu-ray or DVD. They're very in-depth and they're very cool, but yeah, gutted when they stopped doing them. They're really good.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, they're showing all the snow and they're applying all the fake snow over the graveyard and all the people watching, and just fascinating to see. Yeah, so it'd be great if we did get those back again. Russell, if you're listening.
If you're listening, Russell, yeah. Yeah, we'll see when he comes back. We might have, well, hopefully we're going to have a resurgence of all this stuff that's in his head. Imagine he's stored, even though he said, you know, he's not done anything, he's not felt in any way like a contributor to Doctor Who. He's been a fan for years. I reckon he's still filed loads of stuff away in his big old locker in his brain.
Definitely.
Yeah. Okay, well, I've got nothing else on my notes, dude, so let's score this bad boy. I think it's me to go first, so
go for it.
I'm going to give this a 6.5.
Oh, that's low.
Because I think it's, for me, it's like I said, I think it's an okay watch. It's an enjoyable enough little story on its own. I just can't get past the fact that the Cybermen are so useless in it and just not threatening enough. And there's a point in there for David Morris's performance, and another point or a half a point for Tennant and stuff. Those two are great in it. It's very, very good. So, but overall, dude, just reasonably forgettable, mate. It's not a 5. It's not a completely on the fence. It's okay, but yeah. What about you?
Yeah, I'm a bit torn actually, because I've written 8 out of 10, which sounds too high. Because normally an 8 for me is a really strong episode, but I really enjoyed it. But 7.5 sounds a bit low. But I agree with you; it isn't like great.
Well, if you enjoyed it, though, dude, then
yeah, but it's not really an 8. It's like an 8 for me is a really good. I just thought it was a fun episode. I'll go with a 7.5.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
But I did enjoy it. I thought it was a very enjoyable 7.5. Yeah. It's just, I know what people mean. It's not great, but I thought it was fun.
That's cool, dude. 7.5.
Yeah, 7.5.
It's a good score. Okay, right. So 6.5 from me, 7.5 from Ian. What did our listeners think? We had a few over on Twitter, starting with Doctor Who Home. It says, this is a strange one. There's a great idea in there, and the Jackson Lake mystery is great, but in the broad scheme of things, this one is just a bit forgettable. There's nice set pieces and a feel-good ending, but as a whole, it just fades away from me. A 6 out of 10.
Okay.
Sam Dooley says, title aside, I've always liked this one. It's fun enough romp that I accidentally skipped back when I first binged Revival Who and only realised 4 years down the line. It's nothing outstanding, but the story is fun enough, and it's a cheery Christmas special. 7 out of 10. That's a nice way of describing modern Who. Revival Who. Yeah. The Courier of Who says, I remember being so hyped for this one. Ended up being disappointed. Don't like the CGI at all. 6 out of 10. Our writer Jordan says, I absolutely hated this one when it first aired and sadly not changed my opinion on it since.
Oh, Jordan.
I didn't like Jackson Lake or Mercy, and the Cybermen don't come off too well either. Christmas specials tend to be a bit hit and miss, and unfortunately for me, this one missed by miles. Oh, Jordan.
Gosh, Jordan.
Will Sanger says it's one of the worst 10th Doctor stories. Jackson Lake has little to prove him worthy of being a hero to match the Doctor. The Cybermen are overly generic and robotic, the Cyber Shades are terrible, and the Cyber King misses the point of the Cybermen as villains. 3 out of 10.
Oh, when you put it like that.
3 out of 10 from Will. Chippy T says the weakest Xmas special, deliberately misleading title that got you excited, but then went nowhere. The Cyber Queen is poorly realised, although Dervla Kerwin and David Morrissey are okay. A bit of a romp, but only entertaining after a few tinnies. 5 out of 10. And the Courier of Who actually follows up and says, I remember being so excited for this one, but was gritting my teeth at the CGI. A decent episode.
Really?
Decent episode.
It's that bad?
Yeah, and sticks with a 6 out of 10. Over on the Facebook, we had a few here. So Toby Coleman says, this was my first watch of this one, and despite being a dreaded Christmas special, it wasn't awful. It is perfect for viewing when stuffed and not too focused. I really like the steampunk Cyber King and the cyberspace, but apart from that, the whole Jackson Lake thing would work as clickbait in 2008, but not so well knowing that Matt Smith came next. Also, why did Mercy Hartigan explode like something out of the Sarah Jane Adventures? Sorry if that was a bit long. 7 out of 10.
That was odd, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yes.
7, was it?
7 out of 10, yeah. Andrew Stewart says, it's okay. I really like David Morrissey as the next Doctor, and Tennant gives an amazing performance. However, this story lacks something for me, and I'm not sure what it is. Nevertheless, it is entertaining, so a 7 out of 10. Tim Allman says, hard to remember since it's such a long time since I saw it. I seem to recall it being fine in a fairly disposable sort of way. It was typical of certain type of RTD Who, a bit superficial but kind of fun. Morrissey was an amiable addition, and Dervla Kirwan was pretty good as a villain who had a sort of humanity about her. I was never the biggest Tennant fan, and he's clearly treading water here as his end approached, but he's entertaining enough. Not terrible, but ultimately not disappointment. 6 marks out of 5. Okay. Adam Rossi says, one of my fave Christmas specials. I think David Morrissey should be cast as the real incarnation of the Doctor. Very good. And lastly, Charlie Turner. This is a long one, so I'll just give you the summary. Not bad, but it could have been much better than what it was. One of my personal favourite scenes is where the Doctor shows Jackson the history of himself up until the point where he breaks down in tears. It's arguably one of the most powerful scenes I've seen in all of the programme. It goes on to give it an 8 out of 10.
An 8 from Charlie. That's the highest score.
That's the highest one, yeah. A bit of a mixed bag here with the scores. It's not an overall. It's not like definitely a classic with like 8s and 9s or anything, but also not that much hated because we had 7s and 8s, but we did have a couple of 6s and 5s. So
yeah, I was confused actually. One of the scores, the second from last, you said 6 out of 5.
Did I say 6 out of 5?
Right?
Sorry.
Yeah.
That was over on Twitter. Yeah. So Courier of Who stuck with his score of 6 out of 10. Sorry.
Oh, right. Yeah. I was going to say, because that sounded like it was like a mega the best. Yeah, it sounds like a lot of people don't really love this one. It's a bit of a throwaway for a lot of people, it seems.
A little bit. Yeah. But
it's a shame. I think it's better than that, but there we go.
If you enjoyed it, dear listener, then you enjoyed it. All good. All good. Okay, so what have we got next week, dude?
So next week, we'll be finishing up Torchwood, Children of Earth, next week with day 5.
The last one.
I always thought there were 6 days. This is the last one, right? Day 5.
Day 5, yeah, it's the finale. We'll see what happens with the 4, 5, 6. And now that we're missing Yanto, we're a man down, literally. Down. So we'll see what's going on with
the shrine.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we'll wrap there, dude. It's a good place to stick a pin in episode 345.
Alrighty.
Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode. That was 345. Thank you very much to those of you that tweeted us and jumped on the Facebook and gave us your thoughts and reviews on The Next Doctor. We are really, really running out of modern Doctor stories to do now. So I think for David Tennant,
are we?
Yeah, for David Tennant's Doctor at least, I think we've only got about 2 or 3, maybe 4 left to do. So, we get into the end of that stuff. But before we get to that, obviously we've got some Torchwood to do. So next week, as Adam said, we're on to day 5 of the Children of Earth. So give that a watch. Get your iPlayer fired up or your Blu-ray, because we'll be asking for your thoughts as always. In the meantime, make sure you're following this podcast on your preferred podcast app, or listen on the website, which is bigblueboxpodcast.co.uk. Listen to our show for free wherever you find it. It's all good. And on the website, you can read the articles and reviews from our writing team. And you can also jump off to the socials. We're on Instagram, Twitter and Facebook. Give us a like and a follow over there as we chat Doctor Who throughout the week. And we have a free Discord server. To jump on, there's a link on the website and come and chat Doctor Who with other Who fans. Also, do not forget to jump over to Adam's YouTube channel, The Geek's Handbag, and go and check out all of Adam's stuff there. Grab a cuppa and get comfy. And he's on the socials too, Instagram, Twitter and Facebook under the same name, The Geek's Handbag. So everyone should go and do that, shouldn't they? Yes, do not forget.
Absolutely, do it now.
Do it now, yes. Rightio, Who fans. Until next week, take care of yourselves. And my name is Gary.
My name's Adam.
And remember,